This is Isabel Lerma from Lerma Words of Healing, and you're listening to Heartbreak Anonymous, the podcast that helps those suffering from grief or heartbreak reclaim a life of vitality and get to self-healing gratitude. Today, we're talking about sex with the ex. Is it a good idea? If you did it, how do you balance yourself out afterwards? And if you didn't, how do you maintain that? And how do you continue to not judge yourself, even if you did? What are the gifts that happen when you have sex with the ex? Well, this is what we'll explore today. This was a very difficult conversation for me, but I knew this was a topic that I wanted to explore. And speaking from my own experience, this is why it was difficult for me. But now I realized, as I've been working through this, that there are so many gifts with unpacking what I had done. So, just to make a long story short, not really dwell on the story, but my partner and I of 6.5 years decided to end our relationship, and it's been a journey, a romantic relationship, and we did it out of love. We did it out of, love and respect for each other and understanding that he and I want certain things that are very different. And we both wanted to give each other the opportunity to move towards our highest values. And so the thing that was difficult is that we didn't want to terminate our friendship. He and I both agreed that even if all we could have was a business relationship, a professional relationship, that we would rather have that than completely cut each other out of our lives. And that is something that's honestly been very different for me, because I've not honestly been able to be friends with any of my exes. And so we were doing really well, keeping it professional, but the line started getting blurred because we would hang out and he would want to kiss me or touch me or be affectionate, and it was really hard just trying to always be like the one policing and trying to set that boundary. But I was pretty good at that. I just gave myself some limits of not staying over, being very vocal, being very firm, and just limiting my time and making sure that I was setting the standard. And I was doing well and I thought we were doing well, and I really thought even that maybe there was even a chance that we could get together. But then I wasn't ready for being hit with jealousy. And what's funny is when I got hit with jealousy, it was because I had been hit on and I had refused. But it was somebody that totally reminded me of my ex. And I remember being kind of balanced about it and being like, wow, that's so funny that, like a day or two after we break up, like he shows up in a different form. And I was like, no, really great, but no thank you, I'm not ready for that. And I went home and I was hit with this jealousy that if this is happening to me, it's for sure happening to him. And of course it was, because there's always a balance in the universe. And I was hit with this intense jealousy that he was going to have, the life that I had told myself that I didn't really want, but had been a dream of mine for a while, marriage, kids, and that sort of thing. And we ended up talking, and we actually ended up going for a really late drive. It was like midnight. We were just talking things out. And we ended up at his place, and long story short, I had sex. I decided to have sex, and I thought I had done it from a grounded place, but in the morning, I just felt very different about it. And I remember when I went home to my place, I started thinking about the last time that I had sex with an ex, and that was about a decade ago, with that person then, and it was right before I was leaving for Paris, and my ex had wanted to take me out to dinner just to get together, I think it was actually around this time, like around like right before my birthday. And so that was also another reason why he wanted to get together. And when we got back to my place, I was, a little drunk and a little horny, and and we had also great chemistry. So I actually convinced him that it would be okay, that it would be a good idea, and I would be absolutely fine. Well, the next day, I wasn't fine. Not that he knew. I always feel like the guys are totally okay with this, but I realized that I was emotional about it. But I was already off to Paris and my super amazing great adventure. But I remember how difficult it was for me to get intimate with someone for a very long time. And I realized now that that was a gift. It was a gift that I realized that having sex with the ex did for me. And I didn't see at the time. At the time, I thought, oh, I messed it up. I restarted this. I just reopened these wounds, and I felt like it took me a really long time to get over it. But actually, what it really did was it pushed me to get to know other people. It's pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I started my drunk writers group, and we would drink and we would write. And I remember just being very protective of the women there, and also like getting a lot of flirtatious guys. Well, there's drinking involved, and my sessions are very fun, and we would write for hours and hours, and we were in one of the most beautiful settings in the world. And so, of course, there would be a lot of sexual tension in some of those situations, but I was always very protective of that space. But outside of that, I definitely did wonder why it was so hard for me to find someone when I felt like, there was a lot of opportunities, but I just couldn't let myself feel that way again. And I realized now that's because I was healing my heart, and I needed to take the time to really get to know me and fall in love with me. And I remember also writing my song when I was writing a lot of poetry, like writing a lot on my own, trying to process the breakup and the emotions around it. And that was the training that led me to writing my first song called My Last Cigarette, and that actually ended up winning second place in a songwriting contest in Paris. And I really loved that song and the impact that it made, not just on me, but on my friends and the people that I was able to share it with, family and friends that never had seen that side of me, that vulnerable side of me before. And when I was able to transform that pain and transcend it by sharing it and being willing to share it, be that vulnerable and not feel vulnerable anymore, because I was okay with anyone else's opinion of it, because I knew I loved it and I knew what that song meant for me, and it was a cry of triumph for me. So I looked at that transformation. I was able to look at what sex with the ex this time around would be like, and it really did help empower me, and it helped empower my ex as well. We were able to really talk with each other. We're even more honest than we were before, and I feel like it's a much better place. It's a safer space for both of us to be able to express how we think and how we feel. So not having sex with him after that was much easier. And, we were doing really great for about a month and a half or so. And then another emotional chaos kind of came in for me. And for me, that was me getting COVID. I got COVID about 2 weeks ago. Maybe I'm a little emotional because it's my birthday coming up again. And a lot of other things. But, I had gotten COVID, and he had picked me up from the airport. I didn't know I had COVID then, but I was negative when I tested myself. But a few days after coming back from my travels, I had gotten COVID, and he wanted to be there for me, and he wanted to, he wanted to hole up with me, and it was just really nice. And we ended up, falling into that habit again, and we have great sexual chemistry. But that was really short-lived. So I even told myself, is this just a COVID squeeze? And I would tease him like, oh, you're just my COVID squeeze. And as soon as I'm done with COVID, like, we'll probably stop this. And then we had some pretty intense conversations because we both realized that we weren't balanced about it, and that the issues that we had talked about hadn't really changed. They were still there, and sex was again clouding it. So it was hard in the moment. It was really, really hard in that moment because it did feel like I had reopened the wounds yet again. But I think because of the work that I've been through, that's with my mentor, Dr. Rewire, as well as the development of my method, Lerma Therapeutic Writing Method, and all the writing I had done, I was able to really bring myself to a grounded place. And even in the moment when my ex was basically telling me that, hey, I think we need to stop spending time together and you can't stay over. And I was very upset. And in my head, I was like, you're the one who always asked me to stay over. In fact, the only reason I'm here is because you asked me to be here. I still understood what he meant. And I knew I was angry, but then I thought about it, really thought about it. And then I went to him and I said, I want to say thank you. And he was like, what are you thanking me for? You know, his voice kind of on edge, like, what does this mean? Like, is this real? And so I told him that I wanted to thank him for telling me to leave, for asking me to leave. And I told him that I was thanking him for telling me to work and focus on my business. And I told him that I was thankful that he didn't want to have sex with me because I knew how hard that was for him. And he kind of laughed and he nodded and he said, yeah, it is really hard for me. And you know, we were able to hug and tell each other that we still loved each other. And then I left. And we haven't honestly seen each other since then. We've talked a few times, like mostly through email, just, you know, checking in on each other and just, you know, talking about the business. But it's really helped, I think, in a way, ground us again, to remind us. And I think that's honestly what I am so grateful to my mentor about. And that he always says this mantra that I say to myself: love is all there is. Everything else is bullshit. So my hope for you in seeing this is that before you have sex with the ex, try to get to an objective space first. Really, really understand that even if you think you're grounded and you think everything is okay and that you'll be fine the next morning, there's a huge possibility that you won't. That you're going to have these emotions kind of running through you. And I talked about this before in a first episode of Heartbreak Anonymous, Heartbreak and Sex, where you're biologically driven to have these feelings, whether as oxytocin, dopamine hits, you know, serotonin, all of those things are flowing through your body that can really cloud you and keep you from being objective about your decision. But also not to fear. Like, if you do it, that's okay too. There can be gifts in that, as long as you protect yourself, as long as you do what you can to manage your fears. And as always, you know, I would recommend to write about it. And I think that's what really helped me a lot, is when I get emotional and I start transforming my thoughts and feelings from my brain onto paper, and really working on aligning my brain and my heart and have that flow through to my hands to help me really integrate that process. Really, really helped me understand and see the sides. And the more you do this, the faster you can switch off in the moment. I really love what I do. And if you're going through heartbreak or grief, or if you know someone that is stuck there or has been stuck there for a long time, have them contact me or bring them to me, bring them to a webinar, bring them to a discovery call, or find me on Facebook. Just whatever you do, reach out. You're not alone. And And I hope I get to meet you someday. I hope that I can help you get back to that life of vitality and self-loving gratitude. Just know that there's a purpose, and it's your pain is serving you, and we need to go find and unlock those gifts. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for next week. I'll be putting in the second episode of Heartbreak Anonymous Sex with the Ex, because yes, there is more to unpack. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Catch us next week at heartbreakanonymous.com. My name is Isabel Lerma. Keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.